Beowulf is given Grendel's arm as a prize. Ew! Oh god, Hey! Look at this arm I won! You know, I'm more of a leg person myself, but I feel that you can never have too many body parts in your trophy case. And then there's another party, and Beowulf is given presents. Are these all body parts too? No, actually, they're nice things like swords and banners and helmets and stuff. And then a minstrel is called to sing. 80 lines of his singing, and telling us a history that has literally nothing to do with the rest of the story. After, Beowulf is given more presents and everyone goes to bed. In the middle of the night, Grendel's mom attacks. Yeah, Grendel has a mommy, and she doesn't like when people beat up and kill her baby. She steals Grendel's arm. Once again, ew! The commoners tell tales about Mommy Dearest. Well, it was so nice of them to tell Beowulf that there would be a monster that would avenge the other monster. Beowulf hunts down Mommy, who has gone into a lake. Apparently, Beowulf doesn't approve of punching girls because this time, instead of wrestling the monster, he takes a magic sword into the lake. He swims down to the bottom for a better part of the day. Wow, I guess he's got scuba gear or something. He finds Mommy, but his magic sword does squat. He gets over his aversion to hitting girls and tries to wrestle her. This doesn't work either. Finally, he finds another magic sword and kills her. Lots of magic swords in this book. This is all underwater, remember? He's been swimming and fighting demons for more than half a day without surfacing. Maybe he's part whale. Do whale furries exist? Yeah, I don't really want to think about that. While Beowulf is underwater, he finds Grendel's corpse and beheads it. More body parts! Then he finally heads up with Grendel's head and the sword he slew Grendel's mother with. At the surface, the sword... No, that can't be right. The sword melts? Why does it melt? The poem never tells us. What it does tell us is that Beowulf tells us about the fight. Yes, we are told about the fight again. Enough already, okay? We know all this. There is no need to retell it. Let's move on. Hrothgar, after listening to Beowulf's story, gives a speech, warning Beowulf of the dangers of absolute power and telling him to be mindful of the fragility of life. Beowulf just killed 2 demons and spent a whole day underwater. I think he's okay. Guess what happens next? Another party! And Beowulf gets more presents. Seriously, this guy is like crippling the Danish economy. He's taking so much of their stuff. Beowulf and his friends finally go home to Geatland? Yeah, it is called Geatland. Our wonderful hero goes and visits the king, and he summarizes the entire past 2,000 lines of poetry, and we get to read all of it. Beowulf gives the king of Geatland all his presents, and in return, the king gives him a sword and some land. Well, I guess that makes some sense, given the social structure back then. Sometime later, the king dies, and Beowulf becomes king himself. The poem pretty much skips all of this, and we jump ahead to 50 years later. Beowulf has grown old and wise, and the kingdom did pretty well for itself, until a dragon attacks. We are told of the dragon's horde, and then we are told that the dragon destroyed Beowulf's home. For some reason, we go into a flashback, recounting the death of the previous king, and another history lesson. Oh joy. Finally, Beowulf goes to fight the dragon. He fails to kill the dragon on his first attempt, and all the men he brought to help retreat except for one guy named Wiglaf. And since we haven't met Wiglaf yet, yep, you guessed it, we get another family history, which still doesn't matter.
Die, dragon, die! Don't worry, my liege, I come to help you. But first, I need to introduce myself. I am Wiglaf. Hold on, dragon. I need to tell him my family lineage.
Wiglaf goes to help Beowulf. In the fight, Beowulf is injured and starts bleeding profusely. With Wiglaf's help, he kills the dragon, only to discover that he has been poisoned. He senses that he is near death, and what does he do? He tells Wiglaf his life story, and then asks him to go plunder the treasure, because, you know, when you're dying of poisoning and blood loss, this is what you're thinking about.
I was king for 50 years. And in all that time, nobody ever dared to attack us.
Yes, my king.
Except those who did. But we fought them back, it's okay.
Yes.
I want you to go get the treasure.
Yes. When Wiglaf returns, Beowulf dies, after another relatively long speech.
And now, I die. But before I do, I have a few things to tell you. As I die, I want you to think upon a few things. Alas, I feel this may be my last breath. But I think I can stay alive until I tell you about my life's history.
Die already! The last 300 lines are pretty much Wiglaf wondering about the future of Geatland, and thinking about Beowulf's fate. Finally, we get Beowulf's funeral. While the action scenes in the story might be somewhat interesting, I honestly think the only reason this is considered a great piece of literature is because it's so old. It's very repetitious, and is more filler than story. We are told a lot about family trees. In fact, I have a full map of all the family trees, but in the long run, it really doesn't affect the story at all. Actually, it doesn't affect the story in the short run either. In fairness, this was the style back then, even if I don't like it. I'm the Bibliomaniac, reviewing books because someone has to.